You listen to me. You listen to me.
Listen to me.
You listen to me closer than you've ever listened.
What's up, everybody? This is Friday Night Lights Rewind. I'm Brandon Collins.
And I'm Chris Allen.
And we are talking about episode 11, season 1 of Friday Night Lights, Nevermind, which is the title of the Nirvana album that Street is looking for at the beginning of this episode. Street is just having a mental breakdown throughout most of this. And that's before he has the erectile dysfunction with Lila Garrity, which I get. We've talked about this before. You know, Mickey Kelly and you can't perform. That's tough because, you know, at least Street knows that he has another shot because Lila ain't trying to go nowhere now because she's extra loyal to him. But, you know, if it was a one-off for me and Mika Kelly and that happened to me, I'm probably going to turn to heroin. This is not good. It's not going to be good.
Yeah, you talk about fumbling the bag, man.
Well, it's not his fault. I mean,
it's not. Yeah.
I keep reminding myself that he's supposed to be like, what, 17?
Yeah.
17, 18, maybe. And his life is fundamentally different.
Yeah. It's a 180.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's on the I don't want to say opposite. I don't want to seem like he's not going to be successful. You know what I'm saying? 100%. It's more like it's definitely at least at a minimum a 90-degree shift.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like watching him in the opening scene. It's just like him working out in his daily routine. You still see like that competitive guy who gets in there every day, does what he needs to do. He's still in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That QB1 mentality is still in there.
100%. This episode was interesting because it talks a lot. Like I thought there was a lot of subtle nods towards like good mentorship. You know what I mean? Having a good like role model around you, and what happens if you don't, or what happens if you don't have a good role model, or you don't have anyone around at all, like Saracen's dad, right?
Right.
Because you have Herc, you know, at one point talking to the Street, and Street's comfortable enough now where he's kind of like, "Hey, like, how do I have sex?" You know what I mean? Like this shit's mad weird. And Herc's like, "I mean, you ain't gonna be exploding fireworks like you used to, but." You know, it takes time or whatever. He says his crass Herc way, right? Mm-hmm. Tammy gives good advice. And we got to talk about the Riggin storyline because that was hilarious. I forgot that Taylor Kitsch could do comedy.
Yeah, he's
like,
great, man.
He's able, like, I think that's what's underrated about his performance in this movie in the show, because it's very easy to like write it off as like he's just this mopey kind of blank faced dude who just like emotes intensity and like all that stuff. But he actually like he's able to play Riggins in multiple ways. Like him playing off of Landry was like great comic timing and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like watching him like trying to charm Tammy with his little smile and like I don't know what's you can tell he's so used to doing that to other people. But Tammy was like, it's not gonna happen. And bro, she looked so good. This episode.
Tammy looked amazing. But she was like, Tim, what's the Scarlet Letter about? And Tim says, oh, you know.
Come on, man. And the thing is, that's gonna work on probably 80% of the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And
the girls.
There it is. Yeah, and the girls. You know, he's a charmer. You know, it's sad to say, but like the older dudes in their 30s and 40s, they wanted to be him, so they're gonna let shit slide. The girls in the class, they love him. And
you know what it is? Yeah, the secret with Riggins, and my wife tells me this about myself, where she's like, you should smile more. Like, you know, because like, you know, I just naturally have like kind of a stoic face. You know what I mean? I just met some people over the weekend where I was like, oh yeah, I do comedy. They're like, I would never figure that you did comedy, just like off the way like you carry yourself, blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty low key, but I never felt the pressure to always be on because those people always drove me crazy, right? But like, yeah, it's interesting because you expect Riggins to always be mopey, but then you see him do the smile. He does like that little smirk, and that's the thing that gets the girls going.
Yeah,
you know, he reserves it enough where like, oh, like
it's almost like he weaponizes it because he is mopey, and then if he smiles, they're like, oh, I got him. He did something. I got him to he's it's so funny, man. this episode is really good, and they really they show like their teen side, like like this whole thing with Riggins, and then like to go back to the Herc and
Street.
Jason thing.
Yeah.
When Herc asked him, he goes, "Was it by yourself or with Lila?" He was like, "Come on, man, it was with Lila," because like he's still 17 and talking about jerking off is weird. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, when Lila brought over the quad porn, I was like, all right, first of all, where did she find this? Because it was at the library. This is weird. Also, old school VHS is bad. I was like, they're still using VHSs at this time. Like, this came out in 2005, right?
That's so funny. Yeah, that's she did bring over the VHS. Yeah, where the hell did
2007? They still did it. I was almost graduating from college. We weren't using deep VHSs at that point.
I mean, they in Dillon, Texas. They might not have DVDs yet. It might not have made it.
That's real quick to that, Chris. That we laugh about that, but do you think, like,
oh boy,
are there? I know I'm trying not to get too political, but
no, I don't care.
Are there places in America still that are like that antiquated that like maybe are still using DVDs and shit like that, like that don't have reliable internet where they can stream stuff and like, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. You know what's funny, man, is like hearing different people's stories from around the country being in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And like I met so many people from just really small towns and areas where like my friend Winston, he's a comic, Winston Hodges, his mother just got DSL, not DSL, but they just got like, the internet where they live at. Jesus, like it was basically dial-up speeds until maybe about a year and a half or 2 years ago.
Wow.
And this is maybe an hour outside of Richmond, Virginia.
That's wild, man. Because that accessibility really does, especially in education wise, that's going to be huge, especially over the next few years, because I think we are legit like heading towards like a Ready Player One kind of situation with education at some point. And if you don't have reliable internet or access to technology, just like basic stuff, you're already starting several steps behind.
Several steps. But I veered off. But to go back real quick, the people I work with in the military, there were some people I knew from different towns where, like, I mean, we're talking like 2015, 16, 16, 17. Their hometown, they still have like family video.
I mean, shout out to family videos, man. That's one thing I miss. I miss the video store. I miss you? Bro, because
actually, you know what? Yeah,
I miss the video store, man, because it's like a sense of community. Like that's where I could find some movie nerds. Typically, you know what I mean? Like once those went away, it was hard for me to like find people that were that passionate about movies where I could just talk all day about. That's why I started my Media Popcorn podcast, because it was so rare to be able to find people I could talk to about movies just for hours on end until I got older and I learned about like, film critic orgs and stuff like that. It's hard sometimes, like if you're really passionate about something, to find someone that fucks with it the way you do.
Right. I totally agree. Yeah, all those feelings about the video store kind of popped up when they went into the music store. I was like, man, remember the music store?
They're still around though.
Well, it's not as popular.
Yeah, it's like, just vinyl now.
Yeah, it was so popular. Like you would just go, like, oh, I want that. That's crazy that we would buy an entire CD because we heard one song on the radio.
Yep. I was that sucker that bought the CD for the single and the rest of the album was booty. It would just be so upset.
Paying what, $24? Then it was probably what, $15?
What were they that much? It was like $15 maybe. $15 usually. And then if you knew people at the music store, that's when you started hearing about different technology. That's how I started learning about MP3s, to be able to burn specific files on a CD where you can get maximum music on the CD. And that they're like, oh, if you download the file and like waves, you could put more wave files, so you could have a CD up to 30 songs and stuff. I was like, word. Yeah. And that's how I learned about mini discs and shit like that. I had all like the newest technology.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, because I was just always like an audiophile. Like I music got me through a lot of shit. You know what I mean? When it's hard for you to kind of make friends or like, just navigate, social life, especially in middle school and like early high school. I just like would listen to my MP3 player and stuff like that. Like I had to. That's what helped me get through a lot of shit.
Yeah, I see. Music. What do they say? It's the soundtrack to your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. It takes you back, man. And just seeing them just in that music store, I was like, man. and watching them trying to like watching them.
Talk about
It was
Clay
a
Aiken.
Yeah, now that was funny too. How he just went with, even though he was so mad at her, he was still able to joke around. And again, it shows you that high school lovey-dovey thing where like she's committed the ultimate betrayal.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Especially like in high school where like it's all new, all your feelings are so new. We put so much value on sex when you like 16. Like it's the end of the world if your girlfriend sleep with somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I could tell he just felt so awkward in that moment. Like later on with Tammy, how he was like, I wish it was somebody else. I wish I could just walk away, because he's such a strong dude when it comes to sports and he's a leader and I'm pretty sure he had that ability because he's disciplined.
Yeah.
There's no way he got to be where he was and
100%.
not be disciplined. And he can't get rid of this thing that he know is not good for him.
Yeah,
That scene was crazy, man.
and I loved what Tammy said in that scene too. She's like, "There's no weakness in forgiveness if that's where you're at." Like,
Yep.
and that goes back to again the positive real like role models in someone's life to be able to give that kind of advice. And that's actually like my wife has been dealing with like a lot of family stuff, and people are constantly going to her for like just because she has a good head on her shoulders, like for clear advice, clarity, an empathetic ear and stuff like that. And I realized I'm like, yo, like I'm watching this too, that's a heavy burden on like people. When you're able to like kind of come from things from a very clear-headed like perspective, a lot of people come to you with a lot of crazy shit because they just don't have anywhere else to turn, and that could be a lot. You know what I
Right.
mean? But
Yeah.
Tammy and Coach Taylor, they handle it the best they can and stuff like that. Like um, Coach Taylor and Tammy, they were great in this episode, especially like when they were bickering over the trash can. I was like, "Yep, my wife and I've done that." And then he's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, so did you tell Riggins he can't play unless he passes these classes?" He's like, I do have a game this Friday."
It was this was a great scenario because we talk about how much we love coach and how he cares about the boys and he knows that it's more than just football, but sometimes we can have those blind spots. And like I think this episode kind of exposed one because we see him as such a great wholesome guy, and it's just like, yo, you kind of are letting Tim slide by. Like,
Well, yeah, it's coupled with that that magazine that lists him as like one of the top high school coaches in
yeah,
America or in Texas. Was it
in
America or
Texas.
in Texas, right?
Yeah.
And it reminded me a little bit of like when that happens, sometimes that can make people lose sight a little bit. Like he didn't fully lose sight, but he was flirting with like, hey, can I get Tammy to back off here? Similar to do you ever watch The Bear?
Absolutely.
Remember the episode like where it's the first season, that scary ass episode where like what's her name forgot to turn off the pre-order and they get slammed with like hundreds of orders. And then like it's right after that review came out. And so like the main dude, like he's fucking calm is like freaking out. It felt like kind of like a lesser version of that. Where Taylor's like, oh, put that magazine away, but then he's like, oh shit. I might be getting some heat because that one school calls about the quarter QB coaching role, and he's like, huh. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, and now that I've written, I've been writing a little bit more. I've been really trying to pay attention to how they start to introduce new conflicts and things like that. And I'm noticing like, okay, things are starting to come together for Coach.
Mm-hmm.
Things are starting to look good, and he's starting to settle in. And now all of a sudden, something more attractive comes along. It's just like you've been single, no one wants to talk to you. You get a girlfriend, and all of a sudden, a baddie was like, "Hey, I always thought you were cute," and it's just like, I'm in something right now, and I kind of like it.
That's life, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been interviewing for some managerial roles and stuff, and like that's come up as like, oh, why'd you leave this one company? I'm like, well, like I got recruited. I mean, I was clearly doing something right, and the word got out, and like this company was like, hey, we got this stuff going on, like we can give you this, and I'm like, it's too good to pass up. And as I was getting older, I was thinking more about like life investments and like taking care of my family, things like that. So I could definitely hear it. It's just Tammy was immediately like, yes, that's awesome. But then she's also like, shit, we might have to move again.
Yeah, that's true too.
And then Saracen might have to move. I mean, we know how that pans out, but like as of now, he might have to move to Oklahoma to live with his aunt because his dad's just like, yeah, I ain't dealing with this bullshit.
Yeah, man. I was gonna say before we started to record, like I've obviously seen this episode before, but I kind of forgot about it.
Okay.
I remember watching it the first time and thinking like, oh, this is a military guy. I can relate to this. And here I am, probably 10 or 12 years later. I have a different perspective. I'm older. I've dealt with some things, and like, yo, this episode was really triggering for me, man. It was really, really triggering as a military veteran to like, because you see the impact that his father has when he comes home. You know, you get a glimpse into what it's like for military families, man, because coming home is supposed to be a joyous occasion. Dad's home, mom's home, the family's back together. But what a military member can forget is like, yo, life continue home without you. Even though you know that, you don't really think about it. And then you come home and you try to interject yourself into the routine. And you have to realize, like, yo, they've been taking care of this stuff for 6 months, a year, sometimes even 2 years if things are that messed up. And then for him to come home, like he left a war, right?
Yeah.
And then you come stateside and you go, oh, okay, I'm not getting shot at, everything's cool. And this is so real to life where like you end up in this combat zone and you come home and everybody thinks it's going to be sweet, even you think it's going to be sweet, but you forget, god damn it, I got I forgot. We got to get the house painted. There's stuff going on at the house. Oh man, my wife's mom has breast cancer. You know, my parents are aging and this is going on. My son is having issues in school. So you come home and there's all this stuff going on and it can be overwhelming. And this is what's sad too, bro. It can be trivial because you go from watching your friends die, you seeing kids get killed. You know what I'm saying? You are in a life or death situation every day, and you come home and it's just like, yo, why are y'all complaining about this shit? This not that serious. Like people are getting shot, but for everybody else at back home, yo, this is their real life. But for somebody in the military, it's like I don't get it. He's yelling at grandma. And if you notice, there's such a domino effect because not, dude, this episode is everything you've been talking about the entire time. How much pressure is on these kids?
Yep.
And like in this episode, you really see it for Matt. They really kind of get in there and show you a little bit more because he actually says this episode, I'm paying bills, I'm doing this. Like,
Yep.
I thought that might have already been settled, but no, this kid is paying bills. He's a sophomore.
He's like,
and then
I'm paying rent. I'm
he's
working.
paying rent. He's dealing with like when they go to the healthcare worker. I mean, that stuff is complicated.
Yeah, and also the dad's not around to see the pressures that Dillon, Texas is putting on this kid too. Like, you know, he wasn't around when Matt was made QB after Steve got injured. So he has no context about even just what that pressure is like. He never asked Matt about school. He doesn't obviously know about Julie because either Matt doesn't feel comfortable telling him about it or the dad just doesn't care. Like, and I love that Matt, and this is where, you know, I really related to Matt. And this is probably why I love this character so much because he was at a young age where he was able to see about his dad. He's like, you're my dad and I love you. Like, you know, internally he's saying this stuff. He's like, but you are not contributing positively to my life. Mm-hmm. He's like, you've actually made things worse since you came here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because just because he tucks in grandma at the end of the episode doesn't mean things are okay. And I think the dad interpreted that as like, oh, we're okay now. Matt's just like, no, you just finally did something decent for your mom. Yeah. Because you've been giving her shit this whole time. I didn't realize, and this is interesting because we talked about this in the early also the series and like watching the earlier episodes. Grandma has never been formally diagnosed. She's never been formally evaluated. They just suspect it's dementia, but it's never been on the books. And it sounds like they didn't do that because depending on how severe it could be, that could fuck up Matt's guardianship. Because apparently, so we learned in this episode, grandma is Matt's legal guardian. It's not the dad. Right. And so the counselor that they meet with basically is like, if you put, because Matt's dad's like, all right, fine, you're complaining too much about taking care of my mom, we'll put her in a home. And then the woman's like, yeah, but if you do that because she's Matt's legal guardian, then either you would have to take over, but she's like, we can make that work. We could probably talk to the army, get you discharged or whatever. He's like, I'm not doing that because the people overseas, they need communities and we need to finish the job. And I'm like, he's one of those guys who'd rather be anywhere but home. Yeah. You know, I think, what was it? The Hurt Locker was the first time I saw in a movie where I'm like, oh, some people just like don't know how to not do, not know how to be a soldier or whatever job they have for it. And it's the same thing that you would say like about maybe a white collar businessman or some shit like that, who maybe it's just all about their job and like has a family but doesn't really engage with them. Because have you seen The Hurt Locker?
Yeah, I saw it years ago.
Remember when Jerry Renner comes back home and he's just so disengaged and just
Yeah,
he needs
it's
the
boring.
adrenaline. Yeah, he
Yeah,
just needs adrenaline. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the documentary. I don't want to veer off too far, but I watched a documentary about, I can't remember the name, but all these guys used to be in different services, Army, Marines, or whatever. Again, they were addicted to the adrenaline of combat, so they were going to Syria on their own to help these like rebel fighters fight against. Yeah. And like some of the guys in the series end up getting killed, but like they would come back home and all they would do is drink and hang out and smoke weed and do drugs. And they're like, yo, they're like, I can't just get a regular job. Like I can't.
Yeah.
They can't do it. A friend of mine, he's a comic. I don't want to say his name, but his cousin is is a special forces guy. Yo,
Okay.
this motherfucker is in Ukraine right now, embedded with Ukrainians killing Russians.
Oh shit.
Yeah, this dude is crazy. He's basically like a mercenary, man. And there's so many of these dudes that do that shit. They go around the world and they embed themselves with like whatever cause they feel like is the good side. And it typically they're not going out and fighting with Hamas or anything like that. But yeah, they're interjecting themselves into these conflicts in other countries because they can't, and they have to get smuggled into these countries. Because that's crazy. I mean, they're in the back of a truck riding through Iraq, going through checkpoints to get to Syria, so they can get killed on the way there.
Yeah,
it's wild, man.
Yeah, it's just so complicated because it's like I'm curious about. Well, I mean, I guess the dad is making enough money where it's covering some expenses, but it doesn't sound like it's covering everything, right? So if that's the situation, then this is where it's like Matt's dad is kind of a piece of shit because
he is. Yeah.
you're seeing your son suffer, and yes, this is your career. Your career is being a soldier, and you like the work that you're doing on Iraq. It clearly fulfills you in a way that being back home does not, right? But your son's 16 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's no way that you went through all this shit at 16. You know what I mean? I think that his mom seems caring enough possibly pre-dementia where she was like not going to let her son be stressed out the way that Matt is stressed out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And for me, that's where I get really upset. Like I hate when parents put that kind of burden on their kids where like sacrifices need to be made. It's like, motherfucker, like
you're the adult.
Yeah.
It's just like you have to make that sacrifice. But yeah, man, his dad, man, he was just really triggering just the way he came in and was just kind of upsetting everything. And again, you saw that you saw the domino effect because he yells at Julie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now Julie is upset, and then Tammy sees that. Now she's upset. You know what I mean? And then there's, of course, you would tell Coach. So one guy coming back, Grandma's upset, Matt's upset, Julie is fucked up. Tammy doesn't know what's going on. Then they have the big fight. Now the coach is involved. Yeah. So just off of one guy coming home, it has such a ripple effect. And then your boy, I thought this was kind of funny. I'm jumping in, but Brett Weston, the backup. He had great name, by the way. Great name, Brett Weston. And so like it had an effect on all these people. Like, think about Brett Weston, even though he's not really on the show. Yeah. Like, Brett Weston is basically Saracen before the show.
Yeah. Does the Brett come into play in future episodes? I couldn't remember.
I don't know, right?
So. I don't think so. Yeah. I think this is it's season 3 where Matt's really threatened. And but this, I was like, shit, has this become a thing? But I was like, no, Matt Saracen gets his head, together for a future episode. But yeah, it's and it's tough to hear that too, especially like because my wife had to this is years ago. She had to tell me like, hey, like I think therapy would be good for you because she's like, for some reason, whenever this person comes around you get different. You get very tense. Like you're not your usual like relaxed positive self, and I think you need to like kind of explore what that's about. And it got to a point where I was like, oh yeah, like it feels toxic because this person, whether it's like life decisions or just guilt or what have you, just their aura just was not very positive, right? And it's just tough to be around that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Matt's dad looked so uncomfortable everywhere he went. Even
Yeah.
talking to Coach, he was just like very stiff and weird. And then he said something where even Coach was like, oh yeah, he said, I didn't know he had it in him. And then Coach Taylor was like, he's got a lot to offer, man. Like your
Yeah.
son's
That
doing
was
you proud. Like,
Yeah, that was tough, man. That was so tough. It just shows you how detached his dad is from everything, and he's not really up on what's going on with his boy. He doesn't know his son.
does he care? I think that's the question. Does he care, or does he even like Matt? Because I think you can love your kid, but I don't. I think there's a world where he doesn't like his kid. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah,
Or does he just not even care? Because even with grandma, he seems like why is she acting like this? It's like, was she?
he's fucked up. I don't. Yeah, at this moment, I don't. I think he's so far gone. He, yeah, man. I think he does love his son, but he's so far gone that he can't. He can't really like connect with him. And here's the thing too: we don't really know a lot about Matt's background and his parents, but just from my experience with the military, man, I know so many guys that have had babies with women that they barely even know.
Yeah.
So there's really no real connection with the mom.
Mm,
So even though it's their kid, it's just like there's they weren't never in love. There were this child wasn't conceived in love at
yeah.
all. You know what I mean? And that really, really sucks. Where it's a one night stand. Now you guys are kind of stuck together. You
For at
might
least
learn.
18 years.
Yeah, y'all might learn to like each other, but I run into that so many times where it's just like, bro, I met this chick at the club, man, and she got pregnant, and I want to do the right thing, and we got married, you know what I mean? And it just ends up being uglier and uglier, man, and so much resentment gets built up, and unfortunately, the kid suffers from that, you know?
100%. Oh, that's what's interesting too about this show is that it really shows that it takes a village to help support all these kids,
Yeah.
right? Because for Street, right, you have Tammy Taylor, you have Herc, you have Coach Taylor to an
Coach.
extent. Well, he was trying to talk to Coach Taylor, ends up talking to Tammy. Still feels very comfortable, kind of eventually telling her what's going on with Riggins. You got Tammy, you got Landry, and you
Yeah.
have Coach Taylor holding him accountable. Like, hey,
And
I
his
know you
brother
talked.
to a degree.
Yeah, but like we don't see Billy in this episode, but in this
Yeah.
episode, Coach Taylor
Oh,
even goes to him and was
okay.
like, "Hey,
Right.
I know you talked to my wife, and maybe you don't think that this is serious, but actually, I'm gonna hold you accountable to that shit." And
Right.
that's the stuff that like is really powerful because it's one thing to know like, "Hey, I got this person looking over my back, watching me intently, Tammy Taylor," but it's another to have another adult come in and reinforce that shit because you're like, "Oh, okay, I can't finesse my way out of this," right?
Right.
And then eventually, with Saracen, like the Taylors are like, you can come home with us after he has that blow up with his dad because it's like clearly this is fucking with your mental and this
Yeah.
ain't good for you. Yeah.
Can I ask you this?
Yes. Yes.
All right, so my wife ended up sitting down and watching from I think she saw from the argument forward. And do you think Coach should have said something? Somebody should have stepped in during the argument? Because I my initial thought is like, yo, why didn't they stop this? But
Mm,
no, it didn't get physical. They weren't really cursing at each other. And it's a weird thing, like, because I was like, yo, that's school property. He plays for him.
mhm.
This is I can't say unprofessional, but should not be going on at the school.
I
But
think
like,
if
where's the line?
I think if Matt's dad had actually physically grabbed him, because remember, Matt's dad just grabs his backpack,
The
right? Or his duffel
backpack,
bag,
right?
right? If Matt's dad had physically grabbed him and tried to force him in the truck, then it's a different situation. But
Yeah,
because Matt kind of like when he grabs the bag, Matt gets out of it and just backs away and is like, I'm not coming home with you. It's over pretty quickly. And then the Taylors step in and they're like, hey, you can come home with us and stuff. And the dad also doesn't seem like he's going to fight that much. Again, I don't know how much the
yeah,
dad actually cares.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but
That's
it could have
sorry.
gotten way worse for
Wait,
sure.
dude, way where a guy like that, man. Because like honestly, like my son has a friend whose dad kind of has that stare,
Mm,
and he was also in the military, and it's just like, man, I don't know about this guy. And like they casted this guy well because he fits it. Him and Matt kind of look alike, but just his stoic, just I mean, just blank
yeah.
it's so on point. And dude, it scares me. I'm like, is this guy gonna start killing people, man? Because like I recognize that look so much now, man.
Mm.
And that's why it was so triggering because I'm like, this guy is fucked up.
Yeah,
He's
man, and
fucked
that's
up.
it's getting worse too because the way this country just treats veterans. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
that's a scary prospect. Like
It is. And
for
what's
sure.
scary too is like in hindsight, he was like, we got to stay over there till it gets done. I'm like, it's 2024, bro. And we barely left that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So like
Mhm.
in 2007, you said this was
Yep.
not even close to being done. Not even being close. But we didn't know that at the time. It's just like, bro, buckle in. We got about another 15 years before we leave that place.
Yep. You know what drove me
Crazy.
crazy too? This is a very small detail, but I love that they put it in this episode. Saracen's cooking. His dad is home and he's still cooking for everybody. You know what I mean? I'm
Oh,
like, do you know
yeah.
how this kid is amazing? Like,
Yeah, and go
and
out
the
to
dad
eat.
is
Yeah.
not thankful at all. He never thanks Matt. He never
He
once is
doesn't.
like, thank you for holding it down.
Yeah.
Never.
He didn't, man. He didn't at all. The way he was just like, why is she acting like this? You're being a child. It's like, can't you see there's something going on? And then the fact that his dad, I mean, he ran outside to clean the gutters because he was like, she's driving me crazy. It's like, bro, your son can't run
Mhm.
from this problem. He can't run from it.
Yeah. And it's
And
wild, man.
it's crazy, man, how he's leaving that kid just in the lurch like that, man.
I mean, I know dudes that are assholes to their moms like this. Like, you know, because like, you know, mom has the tick where she's like knocking constantly tapping her fork against the plate and stuff like that. He's like, why is she doing that? Is she anxious? She's like, oh no, like Matt's just like that's what she does. Like, just you know, it's okay. And like the dad just clearly getting irked by it. Then he makes the grandma cry. And I'm like, what is wrong with you, man? Like,
Yeah.
it's oh, can we talk about the parallels of Landry reading of Mice and Men to Riggins, the parallel between Riggins and Street? And that's the reason why Riggins doesn't want to talk about the book.
That's funny you would say that. Just one thing on Matt's dad was I thought he was casted great, but
Yes.
to go to the Mice and Men thing, it's funny because my wife and I also had this discussion. I go, is Tim really this dumb? I go, or is it so close? One, he can't see it, or he does, and he just can't bring himself to admit it. You think it's the latter?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think you know, Ricketts again. Taylor Kitsch was really funny in this because he was like, Landry's like, "Is that you can't read?" And Tim Riggins says, "I can read, I just choose not to," which it seems like a very Tim Riggins thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not a dumb guy. He's been made to think he's dumb, probably by a lot of the fucking dumb people that are around him, especially the dumb adults, because he got Billy drinking at 9 a.m. all the time and shit like that. But you know, I think it was very clear, especially when Landry's talking about the themes and everything like that. That's why Riggins didn't want to do the recap. He doesn't want to talk out loud about it because it's so similar to like him and Street's relationship. And it's like, you know, it's like they had this dream. And that's why in the recap, you know, it shows a pilot episode where they're like Texas forever, blah, 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 because Tim realizes that dream is over. Like he or Street haven't shot one another, but like the dream is over at this point. Right, like you know what they were aiming for together is gone, and so I do love Landry said when he got frustrated with Tim, he's like, "Here's how I relate to this book. I want to shoot you."
And he left, and he walked out, which I don't blame him because he was like, "Dude, I read you this entire book, and this is what you're gonna do." And I love, dude, he makes such great choices, like the tone of that. The way he delivered that line when he goes, it's two guys, their dream got crushed. He goes, can you relate that to anything? Like, come on, like you're sitting at the football field. Like, come on, man, just say it. It'll probably make you feel better.
Did you feel like Landry was holding back just a little bit because he saw what happened to his boy who talked shit to a football player? Like, I feel like he could have said be more explicit, but he's like, I don't want to get punched by Tim Riggins, though.
Yeah, I think you know what? I think that's a possibility, but I think he's there's always a guy who's way more mature beyond his years in high school, and I think that's Landry. I think Landry wanted him to say it.
Yeah,
he just wanted him to say it because honestly, Landry ain't no bitch. Because remember, he stood up for old boy.
Yeah.
So I think he would take the punch, but I think he's just. I think he feels a little bit betrayed because I think I felt like they were building something, and I felt like he I think he felt like he kind of broke through with Tim.
Mm.
He was also charmed a little bit. He was like, okay, I got him. And then it's like, now it's time to be serious and talk about it. And Tim reverts back to being Tim. And he's like, come on, man. You know, I think he thought he broke through, man. But man, Landry, man, he acted his fucking ass off in that scene, man. He's so good.
I mean, but Tim did have a breakthrough because he got a B minus on the paper or the
Mhm.
assignment, and so he's able to play the game. And he even shows up at Landry's heavy metal band performance, which is so insane.
It was. Yo, that venue would be so dope for a comedy show. Every time I see it, I'm like, that would be fun.
I mean, as long as you have a crowd there to like,
Oh yeah.
absorb some of that sound. There was like two
Yeah.
people.
Man, what is it called? Crucifixorious?
Yeah, I
He's
just
such
love it.
a
Landry was not deterred though. He wasn't.
he was not.
He wasn't deterred by like the low audience, attendance or anything. He was just like, "Oh, what's up, Riggins?" Like he's just like it
He just
was fantasy world. He's like, "We rocking."
he rocked out. And that's how you got to be in life. It's just
Mm.
like, hey man, I got to play like this room is filled.
Yep.
I got to do it. Um, so yeah, the shit with Riggins, man, that's such a funny situation between those two guys, man. Just to have those two worlds collide like that. And
It
I
was
think
great.
Landry, I thought Landry saw something in him, and he really wants Riggins to like come out of his shell and like, yo, stop being this dumb guy. Like, why are you? Because he was like, why are you being ridiculous, man?
Yeah.
And I don't think Riggins has ever been rewarded for being smart or studious, and
Mm.
I think that's kind of scary for him because
Oh yeah.
he used to being the football guy, but here you got this kid, he's kind of showing some interest, and he's like, "Oh, this guy's not dumb," and I think that can be a little awkward for Tim. And again, that shows that young, immature high school shit, where it's just like he's just so afraid to open up. He doesn't want to be a nerd. He doesn't want to face his feelings.
Well, I mean, he's emotionally stunted. Like
He
from
is.
the childhood he had, where his parents were fucking crazy, to being raised by his insane brother, who's also struggling on several levels. Like, Riggins has a lot, and that's what
Yeah, they all
it's
do,
so tough.
man.
Yeah, that's what's so. I mean, but at the same time, like when I think about real life and what people are going through and what people have gone through, I'm like, man, life is just fucking nuts.
It is. It's crazy. And like I said earlier, man, this episode really shows all the stuff you were saying about the pressure that they put on these kids. Like this episode was great because it was about football, but it wasn't about football.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It just
100%.
and like Matt having a bad game, it just shows you like, hey, there's so much going on. And
Yeah,
I
man.
think coach felt a little bad when he saw that blow up and he was like, I wish you never came back here. Things are worse. And I think at that moment, coach was like, oh, that's probably why he overthrew the ball, why his head wasn't in the
Oh yeah.
game. Because that's the thing too, man. Because like I'm pretty sure
Well, remember, coach
everybody,
says to him when he pulls him out, when he's like, it's just not your night.
it's not
You
your
know what I mean?
night.
He's not like yelling at him or anything like
Mhm.
that. He's just like, it's not your night. Like he peeps the dad. He knows. He's seen Searson's body language, especially after Searson was so excited to introduce his dad to coach, who's basically been his de facto father figure for the
Yeah,
past few
right,
months or whatever, right? And the way that his dad just responded to all the praise Coach Taylor was giving him, and just like, and then Searson's face just dropping.
right.
Taylor knows that Matt is not okay. And
Yeah,
even Matt tells Julie, she's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "I'm not." Like he's like,
yeah, I'm
"But you
not.
gotta stop bothering me about my dad shit." Because
Yeah. It's so unfortunate, man. I feel bad for him because it's supposed to be a joyous occasion. Dad's home. And it's a small town in Texas. He's a hero, you know what I mean? Because so everybody probably thinks like everything is cool now. And it's just like, bro, he made it worse for me. I'm not getting any recognition for what I'm doing. I'm getting shit on for what I'm doing. He's about to move me. It's just it was a lot, man. The Matt storyline was fucking tough, man. It was tough.
yeah,
Because
it's
at one point I was like, fucking go back to Iraq, just die. I was like, just get the fuck out of here. You're not making this kid's life any easier. I was that mad about it, man.
well, that's what Matt says. He's like, just go back to Iraq,
Yeah,
And then
just
later
get out of
on,
here.
he tells Coach Taylor, "I hate him," and I was like, "Well, we all know that if we've watched the show before, that comes back in four,
Yeah,
season four of The Sun." One of the
that's
best
yeah.
performances in television history, in my opinion, by Zach Giffords. Because you see all this come to a head when Matt's a little bit older, and yeah, it just crushes him.
Crushed him,
What
man.
happens? But you know, his dad did not do right by his son.
He
Absolutely.
didn't. Yeah, and it's probably not intentional. It's just he's going through so much shit in the military. They don't really teach you how to deal with your feelings. You got to have your military bearing all the time. You can't react to shit. You know what I mean? Because yeah, you have to just stand there and take getting yelled at, hearing good news, hearing bad news. You have to have maintain your bearing, maintain your professionalism. It could be the happiest day in the world, but you just still got to stand there stoic, like. I'm so happy about that. You get promoted, you can smile a little bit, but like jumping up and down and shit, like they're not going, that's not a thing. You know, you can't celebrate your wins in the military.
Mhm. Yeah,
Can't.
it's who I did write down. Oh yeah, Tammy told Riggins, "It's my job to make sure you don't grow up stupid."
Yeah.
which I wish more people would say that to young folks. Be like, it's like it's like as an adult, it's my job to make sure you are intelligent. I
Right.
think I think we folks have just given up on trying to make sure that kids are intelligent, have strong, critical thinking skills, problem solving skills. Because I see these young people now, man, and the obstacles that get put in front of them, where they freak out and have anxiety attacks and stuff. I'm like, well,
Over that.
did you
Yeah.
know the shit that I had to deal with? Like,
Yeah.
not, I don't want to like to be like an old man, like back in my day, but it's like, hey, y'all have like way more complex problems, and you're bugging on something that I was able to solve when I was 13 years old and had no technology.
No
So
tech.
you got like, this ain't good. This ain't good. You could literally Google your solution right now.
I know. Dude, my wife upstairs, and like she was just complaining about this AI reader that was like jumping in all her meetings and stuff like that, and just so mad about it. Googled it. I was like, this is how you turn it off. And she went on like a 20-minute rant about this thing. I'm like, all you have to do is put in Google what's
Yeah.
happening with your computer and you can
Yep.
fix it.
Exactly.
We don't need to go through this whole
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
But I have to like just maintain my comment. Oh, let's
Mm.
okay, let's work this out. But yeah, man, it is it makes me so and it's like 11 o'clock. I'm like, why are we doing IT shit at 11 o'clock? Why? Why? Why?
um,
Why are we doing this?
I
I'm
do have
trying
to
to see if
comment
I
on the street stuff to put a bow on that storyline for this episode. So Street and
yeah.
Lila, after she brings that quad documentary and shit, they try to get intimate again, and then he just Street can't keep maintain this with Rutchin, and then he tells Lila, if you want to get laid that bad, call Riggins,
Ooh.
and I was like, because but he talks to Herc, and Herc's basically like, you want to fuck her harder than Riggins, so she can remember that you the main dude. And he's like, yes. And I was like, and he's like, that ain't gonna happen. He's like, you're not gonna be able to blow her back out like he can, man. It's just
I like
he's being honest with him though. It's like physically, it's just never gonna like you're never gonna be at the level of performance that you used to be at.
damn. Sports wise, sexually, like he's not, you know what I mean? He's
Ugh.
lost everything. Oh, to go back to your statement when you said like with the mice and men comparison, like they how like they hadn't shot each other, but they kind of did. Like Lila was kind of like the gun in a way. That's not the
Mm,
best comparison,
I get
but
it.
like they have killed their relationship, and Lila was you know,
Yeah.
she was the object that caused the demise of their relationship. So yeah, man. And I as many times as I've seen the show, I never put that together until last night. I was like, wait a minute. I
Yeah.
was like, that's Riggins. That's their story. And I was like, man, this show was well written. You would not expect something that deep
100%.
in a show like this. You know, that's
100%.
that's some layers.
Yeah. I I've looked up with Mice and Men because I haven't read it in a long time. And I was like, I didn't realize that it's banned in so many places.
Really?
So many school districts are banned of Mice and Men. Yeah.
I
Which
didn't know that.
I'm like, the themes are pretty universal. It's one of the, there's a reason why it's like a universal reading book list. Like growing up, at least, like
Right.
there's a few books where everyone read them, right? And Mice and Men
Yeah.
was one of the earliest ones because
Yeah.
it's short and has universal themes about the American dream, about community, about things not working out and betrayal, all that stuff.
All that shit. Yeah. Did you notice one other thing about this episode?
No Smash storyline.
No, yeah, no smash lines. He was at the obviously at the game. He was also at the prayer dinner.
Yeah, yeah.
But it
The-
was weird. Yeah, he had no lines.
Well, yeah, I mean, neither did what's her name? Riggins' on and off girlfriend
Oh
and stuff
shit,
like that.
yeah, she
She
wasn't in
wasn't in it.
this
And
episode.
I mean, to your point, you pointed out like the football, like there's literally like a 2 minute football scene this whole episode.
Right.
That's it. Like this is more about the characters and setting up a lot of shit for future episodes and storylines. And I think also it demonstrates because eventually in the later seasons we start watching more of Landry, right?
Hmm.
Especially at East Dillon and stuff. And I think another reason why I love the Landry character is because it reminds me of myself a little bit, where he can kind of be friends with anybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think I've underappreciated like how good of a gift that is to be able to kind of talk to anybody, connect with
Hmm.
anybody. You may not have
Right.
like become best friends or anything like that, but even like thinking about this podcast, right? You and I, like I was telling a comedian Rojo Perez yesterday.
I met
That,
Rojo. He's
yeah,
cool.
that, like, yeah, and we were talking about I was telling him about how we do this podcast. I'm like, I've not met Chris in person, but I
Hmm.
do this podcast with him. I talk to him like I've known him forever. Like, you know what I mean? It's just so
Yeah.
relaxed. Like it's not weird or awkward. I'm like, I just talked to the guy about one of the best shows of all time, and we smile, we laugh and shit. And
I
it's just
know
like,
it's
oh,
it,
that's cool. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
man. It's our love of the show that brought us together. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, this episode, man, it's just it starts off so strong, and I think the last couple they were like, yeah, they were cool, but it's paced so well to where like they really draw you in, and like the stuff what Coach Taylor is building,
Yeah.
like
Oh
things are
yeah.
getting good, and like the stuff with Matt, you see how in like how important he is in Matt's life. Yo, he might leave.
Hmm.
So
Same with
say Matt,
Taylor.
yeah. So say Matt doesn't leave, but coach does. Now he's stuck in this town. He's got a new coach. Yeah, he can end up leaving. It's just like it's so much going on right now. And it just shows you how like life doesn't care what you got going on. Life is going to life. And I really loved how it really just showed you the backstory, all the stuff that goes on before those lights come on Friday night.
Mhm.
Because we just see them step out onto the field. People see comics just walk out onto the stage.
Yeah.
But how many times have you had a shitty conversation with your wife or girlfriend, and then you just got to go on and be
Yep.
happy,
Yep. Yeah,
and you're
it's
like,
tough.
fuck, yeah,
It's
like
definitely tough.
it's tough, man, it's tough.
Oh, were you gonna say a situation or?
Oh, dude, my car blew up last week, $2,200.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
So like look at my face. I am scruffy. We are scraping this
Yeah.
last 2 weeks, and you just don't know what people are going through. And I still had to do shows and act happy. And the entire time I'm thinking like, how the hell am I going to make it 2 weeks with no fucking money?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We made it. My wife got paid today, but it was a rough 2 weeks.
I know, man, and that's the thing is, well, one, shout out to you and the wife for just making that work and stuff like
Oh,
that,
thanks.
and I think
And
that
my mom,
that's,
she had to help me a little bit.
I mean, man, you know what it is. My wife and I were hustling and everything like that, and I think a comedian Bobby Kelly said this years ago in his podcast where he talked about how like he and his wife like got an apartment in Manhattan that was way over budget, right? But they both really liked it, and the wife was like, "How are we going to afford this?" He's like, "We're going to figure it out." He's like, "And for years we figured it out. Sometimes
Mhm.
it'd be really stressful, but we figured it out. We were never like homeless, you know what I mean?"
Right.
And just that's what I tell my wife. I'm like, "We're going to figure this out. Like we're never going to not have a roof over our head and stuff like that. It's like we'll figure it out. We're both hustlers and stuff like that. And we're just making it work right now." And so, shout out to the wifeys, shout out to the families that
Yeah.
that
Make that
because
shit work.
that kind of shit breaks people up.
It does.
You know what I mean? That kind of shit breaks up families. And it's like, no, if you and your partner are on the same page, you can get through a lot. And that's the kind of shit that like, I wish more people were able to commit to going through those hard times together versus kind of giving. And I get it. Some people have their own
Yeah.
breaking points and things like that,
Right.
but you know,
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing I learned the last couple of weeks is like, because I know I was like, man, I need to be way better with my money. And like the last couple of weeks, I
black
learned,
men, we always have to be better.
right? I do. And what I realized last week, I go, yo, I spend, because I basically just, we blew our load on getting my car fixed and we made it by, and I was like, man, I realized how much money I don't really need to spend.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something in me when I see a bounce, I'm like, oh, I got to get this, I got to get that, I got to do this. And it taught me like, yo, you don't need any of that shit. You don't need any of it, man. So save your money. You know what I mean?
100%.
I kind of need to go through this rough patch and let me know how much I don't need to spend and how much money I'm actually just blowing on stuff. Just blowing.
Pause. All right. Let's get to
Yeah, super
our
pause.
ratings for episode 11 of season one, Nevermind. Our on the bench rec. So this is a recommendation of a character that or actor maybe that has done something egregious or just like we weren't messing with them this episode. So do you have an on the bench rec
I think
for this
ours might
episode?
be the same.
Okay.
Mr. I don't even know if it's Saracen, but Matt's dad need to sit his ass down.
100%.
Piece of shit.
100%.
And I felt bad because he's a veteran, but he came in hot, bro. He came in hot.
Yeah, he didn't tell Matt he was coming home. Like it's just there's so many things that he did where I was like, this ain't the move. None of this is caring about anybody else or being considerate of anyone else but yourself.
Yep. And one thing I will say too, real quick, is like I think that's why a lot of times the military aspects of shows don't go well because it's so unrealistic.
Got it.
Like they like people showing up on the bus with the duffel bag. It's like that. It's not 1963 anymore. It's just like no, you're gonna get a phone call. Come pick me up from the airport, and also too like the military would take care of his family. So like that's something that really bothered me too. It's just like this is not even really a thing. Like they will be taken care of medically, but they have to create a show.
Yeah,
they got so I have to like suspend my knowledge to like get through the show. It's like the military don't work like that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right. So next, our rating is for MVP character. So this is the character that really shined in this episode or did something that is worth commending. So what were your thoughts, Chris?
Man, I would say leading. There's so many people did so many great things this episode, but my first choice is Matt. But I also got Landry on here and Tammy. I feel like they are, but I have to give it to Matt. If I had to pick one, I'm gonna go Matt.
Okay, I hear that.
That's me.
Yeah, man. I'm like inclined to do Matt, but I also don't like want to just suck Zach Gifford's dick this whole episode because he's gonna get the game ball performance. Spoiler alert, everybody, because it's just so like everything he's doing. Matt is just so phenomenal, and the gravitas that he brings for Saracen. But I think for MVP character, yeah, I'm gonna go with Tammy. I think because I think it gets overlooked with adults in Tammy's position in schools. They look out like they really hold students accountable, and it's all in the best interest of them. Right. It's like I don't want to feel. It's like I'm not doing this for me to feel good about you succeeding. I want you to succeed, so you're not a problem for society later on. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you're able to thrive in this world. You know what I mean? And I think that's really, character wise, I think that's incredibly important.
It is
because Saracen's just fighting for survival, and not saying that that's not that worthy of him being mentioned for MVP character, but like Tammy is like she's doing her job, which is to help these kids.
Right. She is. What I also like too, and we see on other episodes, they don't always make the right choice. So like, I love how like realistic they are. Because like right now, she's killing it. But we see later on, she makes some questionable calls. So I like the fact that like they make these great calls. They do a lot of good things, but they also show like, hey, these people make mistakes. They have blind spots. They make bad calls. But yeah, she was great, man. But it was something about just Matt being a kid, the level of responsibility, and like, because I typically don't think he's a great actor, but like his the way he was talking to Julie, the scene with his dad, I really felt like he really did, he got in there.
Yeah. All right, and so we already talked a little bit about game ball, which goes to performance, that goes to the actor or actress that really shined in this episode. I already mentioned that mine, Zach Gifford, who plays Matt Saracen. Who's yours, Chris?
Same.
Just phenomenal, man. He apparently submitted this episode for like Emmy consideration. He never got nominated for an Emmy, but which is wild. But yeah, like he fucking did the thing as an actor. I mean, a lot of them, everyone, there wasn't a bad performance in this episode.
It wasn't. Landry and Audible mentioned because like the scene at the school in the bleachers, I thought he was great. Even Taylor Kitsch was great.
Kitsch, everybody like brought their like everyone's phenomenal in this show. Yeah, I know you're not the biggest fan of homie who plays Smash Williams, but even he has like his shining moments. They always set up these actors to really shine. The
He
writing.
has his moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but when he rapping shit like that, I'm like, all right, you gotta stop rapping. I'm the smash, baby.
Yeah, I mean that's insane. Very, very coonish, but
Yeah.
black folks. I mean, he's also a teenager, so
He is.
we all had our
you boy
cooning
shit.
moments here and there growing up.
I don't even like to think
I
about
know. I
this
don't
shit.
think about it either, but just cringe. You're just like, oh no.
But you being a kid, you don't know the racial connotations of what's going on and
Yeah,
shit
but
like
then
that.
when you look back at it, you're like, God damn. Like, and now our final score for this episode. And folks, if this is your first time listening, we do a range from 1 to 10, 1 being a drunk Riggins puking on the field, and 10 being a Coach Taylor Hall of Fame speech. So, Chris, we watched Nevermind, episode 11 of season 1. What is your score?
9.5.
Okay.
9.5.
Yeah, I'm giving this a perfect 10. I love this
Really?
episode. I forgot how much I like this episode. The beginning with the street stuff, you're like, okay, like Street's losing his mind. Is this what the whole episode is? And then it's like, nope. Now we're gonna flip it and talk about all the other shit that everyone else is dealing with. And just again, there's not a bad performance. The writing was like great, tight. So many things, so many themes, so many storylines were touched on. So many things were set up for future episodes. Yeah. And I just wanted to watch more after this episode. And that's when you know it's a good episode, when you just want to keep fucking going.
Yeah, man. It's paced so well. It's paced so well. This is one of those episodes where like you love the show, and like the last episode, you go, oh, nothing really happened. And then this is the one where you're like, oh man, this is it. This is why I love it. And I also have to keep in mind too, like, we're not watching it week to week. So like I could see how nothing really happened the week before. And then this week you get this crazy episode. So like after watching it that night, you like, I cannot wait for next week. I can't wait to see
100%.
what's gonna happen next week.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Chris, tell the listeners how they can follow you, man. Keep up with all the stuff you're doing.
Yeah, you can find me on all things social media at Chris Allen Comedy. Check out my comedy special. It's gotta be honest. It's going to be on my YouTube page, but it's on Mark Norman's YouTube page right now. And check out my podcast with my boy Dow, New OGs. That's all over Spotify, anything, all streaming platforms. You can catch that. But everything on social media at Chris Allen Comedy.
Dope. And folks, you can follow me at Frodo_Blackens on Instagram and Threads, FrodoBlackens.com for show dates. I got a dope show on 420 where we're gonna be high and doing a lot of fun stuff with a variety show that's in New York City. So again, FrodoBlackens.com for that. And then my Drunk Black History show is still on the road. We're doing a lot of shows in Boston, Detroit, New York, and booking more as we speak. So drunkblackhistory.com for all that, but also FrodoBlackens.com for everything. Brandon Collins, Medium Popcorn, my movie review podcast is available on all podcast applications. And yeah, man, just let us know that you love the show. Hit up Chris and I. Let us know you're listening. Let us know that you're enjoying this shit. Because we want to keep doing it, but also we want to make sure that people are listening, engaging, and things like that. So let us know.
Yeah, man.
Leave us a 5-star review.
Yeah, leave us a review.
Leave us
Ask
a 5-star
some questions,
review, y'all. Come on now.
Yeah. Hit us up, man.
Hit me with your best shot.
Yeah, come on, man. This is a great show. This is great analysis. This is a different perspective. You probably never heard of the show.
100%.
Share it. Leave a comment, leave a review, all that shit. Let's grow this.
Let's do it. All right, y'all. Full eyes, clear eyes, full hearts. Can't lose. I always forget that. I messed up.
I get so nervous with the.
We did. All right. Y'all know.
Clear eyes, full heart. Clear eyes, full heart. Can't lose. Yeah.
Clear eyes, full hearts. Can't lose. Yeah. Because full hearts. I mean, that's a medical condition.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Peace.